Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Micro Podcast on Podcasting. And today we're covering the question, should I ride solo or should I have a co-host? Anyone who listens to my podcast show, Out of the Box with Christine, knows that, well, I ride solo, meaning I am the host. And I have master teachers come on and I interview them through Zoom. So really, I am the main host. My guests are, if you wanted to call them co-hosts, that's fine, but really they're my guests. I've been doing it that way for several years, and I actually prefer it because, well, I can rely upon me, and I know I'll show up every time. But some beginner podcasters feel that they need to have a co-host, and that's absolutely fine. As a matter of fact, having two people can be quite entertaining. If you're not going to have a special guest that you're interviewing, but you want to talk about topics of the day, you want to talk about health or wellness or spirituality, or if you're political and you want to talk about politics, which is a really great podcast theme, you can have a co-host. Now, you can have someone actually sitting next to you if you wanted to, and either share a mic. I don't think that's the best thing to do, but you can have a shared mic, or you can each be mic'd up through a regular podcast mic. This is my Rode. That's my Rode microphone, so you can have that. Or you can also have little lav mic. Personally, I think a professional microphone is much better than a lav mic. It just has better sound quality, but it's up to you what you're comfortable with. So if you were going to be sitting next to somebody, if it's someone that's in your location, you can do that very easily because the sound quality is something that you can kind of control. But if you have a co-host that's, let's say, on the other side of the country or in another country, you're going to have to make sure that your sound quality is quite good. So you definitely want to test it out beforehand. You might want to do a few practice runs. Personally, I record on Zoom, so you might want to set up a Zoom meeting and hit record. And if you're doing the video portion, which I always tell all of my coaching clients to make sure that they have a video companion to their audio podcast, you can test it out on Zoom and see how the quality is. Now, if you are having a co-host in another part of the country or another part of the world and you're using Zoom, you do have options in how it looks on the video portion of your podcast. You can have different gallery views. You can have it so that the camera is on both of you at the same time, or you can switch it to speaker view where the person who's speaking is going to be filling up the whole screen and the person who's not speaking ain't going to be seen at all. But that's just up to you and your preference. There's always pros and cons on either way. If you go solo, the pros are, well, you rely on yourself and you know you're going to show up. So pretty much you're not going to mess up too much. The con might be that it's just you working on your podcast show and you might want to collaborate with someone else just to lighten your load a little bit with the work that's involved. So if you are going solo, just realize it's all you and you're going to be doing a lot of work, but it's absolutely rewarding. Now, in a co-host situation, the pros are you have someone to bounce ideas off of, you have someone that you can engage in an entertaining conversation, and it actually makes for a really great podcast. You also get to share the workload. So this might be something that you want to consider. The cons are this: if you set up a show with two hosts and you promote it and you market it, you got to make sure that that person is reliable, that they're going to follow through, that they're going to be there to record those shows with you, to edit those shows with, to promote the podcast as much as possible. So you want to make sure it's someone that you can rely on. I've heard a lot of horror stories from beginner podcasters who say that they just started a show with their co-host, they've done a few episodes, it was going great, and then the other person got bored or had other opportunities or was just too busy, and now they have to rethink their whole podcast structure. So before you get started, if you're going to go solo or if you're going to have a co-host, make sure you really think it through. And if you do have a co-host, make sure that you can rely on that person, you trust that person, and you can count on them to follow through and make sure that your podcast is the best it can be. Of course, another positive note about having a co-host is it's not just you promoting the show. It's not just you doing social media. Hopefully, if you have a good co-host, they're going to be promoting it on their social media, sending out emails when there's new shows, again, doing the workload. So it's not just all on you, but sharing that workload. So whatever your preference is, just take time to think about it before you launch that podcast. And of course, if you need any help getting started, if you have questions, if you want someone to help guide you, I am a podcast coach and trainer, and you can contact me at christineblosdale.com. That's christineblosdale.com. And I want to thank you again for tuning in to another episode of the Micro Podcast on Podcasting.